Welcome to the Faith-Based Christian Channel.
Jesus asked, "Can ye not discern the signs of the times?"
Subscribe to the Faith-Based Christian Channel today.
Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating, influential, and, let's be honest, one of the most confusing books ever written. We're going to break down its structure, meet its very strange cast of characters, and explore the different ways people have tried to crack its code for nearly 2,000 years. So think about this for a second. Imagine a book whose ideas have literally shaped history, inspired some of the greatest works of art, and even trickled down into the way we talk every single day. Its imagery is so powerful, it's become part of our cultural DNA. I mean, you absolutely know its symbols. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, the final battle of Armageddon, that infamous number of the beast. It's all over the place. But actually reading the book itself? Yeah, for most people, it just feels like an unsolvable, totally intimidating puzzle. And that's the big question we're tackling today. We're going to try and piece this prophetic puzzle together. We'll look at its surprisingly organized structure, its key players, and the 4 major ways, 4 interpretive keys, if you will, that people have used to try and unlock its meaning throughout history. Okay, so the first thing you have to get is that Revelation is not just a chaotic jumble of random, weird visions. Not at all. It's actually a highly structured story. Think of it more like a cosmic countdown, with every judgment building on the last in this really deliberate pattern. The whole narrative is driven by these 3 dramatic sets of judgments. It all starts when the Lamb opens 7 seals on a scroll. And when that 7th seal is opened, it unleashes 7 angels who sound 7 trumpets. And guess what the 7th trumpet does? It signals the pouring out of the final 7 bowls of God's wrath. It's like a cosmic chain reaction. And check this out. You can see how the intensity just keeps building. The seal judgments, they affect about 1/4 of the earth. Then, the trumpet judgments ramp that up to 1/3 of the earth. But those final bowl judgments, whoa. We're talking total, severe, widespread devastation. The stakes just get higher and higher. Now, like any epic story, this cosmic drama has a cast of unforgettable characters. And to really understand what's going on in the narrative, you have to meet the key players. At the very heart of it all, you have this massive conflict between 2 opposing figures. On one side, you've got the Lamb, which is a symbol for Christ, who's the only one who can kick off these final events. And on the other side, you've got the great red dragon, basically Satan, who's waging war against heaven itself. But the dragon's not working alone. Oh no, he empowers 2 other key figures. There's the beast from the sea, who's this global political leader, often called the Antichrist, and then there's the beast from the earth, a religious figure known as the false prophet, who uses incredible miracles to deceive the entire world. And the deep symbolism just keeps on coming with these 2 powerful, completely opposite female figures. One represents God's people, miraculously protected from the dragon's fury, and the other, she's called Babylon the Great, and she represents a corrupt, seductive world system that's doomed to fall apart. Okay, so we've got the structure and we've met the cast of characters. But what does it all mean, right? That's the million-dollar question. And this is where it gets really, really interesting because there isn't just one simple answer. Instead, there are 4 primary keys or lenses that people have used for centuries to try and understand this book. The first key is called preterism. And this view basically says that Revelation is not a book about our future. Nope. Preterists believe most of it already happened. They see it as a symbolic description of things that went down in the past, namely the persecution of early Christians by the Roman Empire and the destruction of Jerusalem way back in AD 70. So, for example, when a preterist looks at that first horseman, the conqueror on the white horse, they don't see some future villain. They see a direct historical reference to the Roman army marching on Judea to crush the Jewish rebellion. For them, it's history, not some far-off prophecy. All right, let's move on to the second key, historicism. Now, this view was hugely popular with the Protestant reformers. They saw Revelation as a kind of prophetic map of all of Western history, with its symbols representing major eras, people, and movements, from the 1st century all the way to the very end. So, from this perspective, that white horse isn't just one army, it represents an entire era. Specifically, they'd point to the golden age of the Roman Empire, a time of relative peace and prosperity that, hey, also happened to be the perfect environment for the early spread of Christianity.
The third key, and you could argue it's the most popular one today, is futurism. And this view holds that most of Revelation, pretty much from chapter 4 on, describes events that haven't happened yet. They believe it's all going to take place in a literal future period of tribulation right before the end of the world. So for a futurist, that white horse has nothing to do with Rome at all. It's about a coming global leader, the Antichrist, who's going to show up on the world stage promising peace, but it's a trick. He's really a conqueror who will plunge the entire world into war. And finally, that brings us to the idealist key. This approach is completely different. Idealists look at Revelation and say it's not a literal timeline of past or future events. They see it as a timeless, symbolic allegory about the constant, ongoing struggle between good and evil, God and Satan, the church and the world. So from this viewpoint, the white horse isn't a specific person or a specific empire. Instead, it represents the victorious, ongoing advance of the Christian message itself, conquering hearts and minds in every single generation throughout all of history. Now, a lot of these interpretations, but especially the futurist view, really zero in on this one specific idea, a prophesied 7-year period of intense judgment. You've probably heard of it before. It's known as the tribulation. So, this period is supposedly split right down the middle into 2 halves of 3.5 years each. The second half, called the Great Tribulation, is said to become way, way more intense. And it all kicks off with this pivotal event called the Abomination of Desolation, which is basically a huge act of sacrilege in a holy place that signals the absolute worst is about to begin. And after these 7 years of escalating chaos, the story hits its climax with a series of just breathtaking events. The corrupt world system, Babylon, finally falls. The Battle of Armageddon is fought. The beast and the false prophet are thrown into the lake of fire. Satan is bound for 1,000 years. And after a final judgment, the old world is wiped away and replaced by a new heaven and a new earth. You know, in the end, it's funny. Regardless of which of those keys you use to try and unlock the book itself claims its main point is Jesus. Its incredible enduring power comes from this potent symbolism that allows it to be read and reread, finding new meaning in every single generation. So why does this book continue to fascinate and confound us so much? Is it a prophecy of the future, a history of the past, or is it a timeless story about hope and fear? You know, maybe the reason it endures is because it can be all of those things at once. A reflection of where we've been, a warning about where we might be going, and a timeless story about the struggles of right now. It leaves the final pieces of the puzzle for us to contemplate.
Subscribe to the Faith-Based Christian channel today, and let's grow our faith together in these last days. The King is at the door.